Chet Holmgren ain't some bench player. He's a star.
He's a guy who does not lack confidence at all.
Someone who has surprised me is Chet.
Oh, by the way, he's shooting 54% from the field, 40% from three-point range.
He's an open court ball handler, like a baby Giannis.
Chet Holmgren. A lot has been said about this 207-pound power forward. Some say he's a reincarnation of Dirk Nowitzki, while others believe he's the next KD. Well, these comparisons are subjective and very much debatable. However, one thing we can all agree on is that Holmgren is a fast-rising star with immense potential. But how did he become so good so quickly, and how high is his ceiling? To get a full grasp of how Chet Holmgren was molded into this freak talent that he is today, we need to pay homage to a man named Dave Holmgren. Aside from being Holmgren's father, Dave, a former player for the University of Minnesota in the 1980s, took it upon himself to introduce his son to basketball at an early age. For a young baller, having someone with prior basketball experience to show you the ropes is always exciting and in most cases helpful. But training in your backyard is never the same as playing against other talented kids in your neighborhood or school. This is a harsh reality that Holmgren would come to learn at the Minnehaha Academy. Young Chet Holmgren was very confident in his ability, so much that when Jalen Suggs asked if he was good at playing basketball, he replied, "Yeah." With high hopes, Suggs gave Holmgren a free pass into practice. Holmgren passed the test for effort, but his basketball skills didn't quite meet Suggs' expectations. "Very quickly, I found out that Chet's level of good was not the same as my level of good," Suggs said, "but he tried very hard. It was very interesting to see him still hanging in there with such a talented group of kids. It was a treat to have him back then." Fortunately, Holmgren isn't one of those young ballers who are allergic to listening. He was humble enough to take basketball lessons from Suggs, who was also willing to share everything he knew about the game. First, he set out to re-engineer Holmgren's basic skills, starting with form shooting. To spice things up, Suggs ensured that Holmgren made at least 250 shots before every practice session. Until that tally was complete, the youngster wasn't allowed to train with the team. This extra work yielded some good results, as Holmgren averaged 6.4 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks per game as a freshman. However, it wasn't until his sophomore year that the world got to see a glimpse of his true talent. Averaging 18.2 points, 9.8 rebounds, and 5.5 blocks per game, Holmgren led Minnehaha to a 29-2 season as they clinched a third consecutive state championship. He established himself as the centerpiece of the team and a nightmare for opposition players. Holmgren's fine form was momentarily halted by COVID-19, but as soon as the restrictions were partially lifted in 2021, he was back tearing it up on the court, only this time at the next level. On the back of his exceptionally productive sophomore year, Holmgren received high rankings. He was the #1 prospect in Minnesota, and following Kuminga's decision to reclassify, he became the overall #1 prospect in the 2021 high school graduating class. And with offers from 30 Division I teams, Holmgren had plenty of options to choose from. However, Minnesota and Gonzaga were at the top of his shortlist, and understandably so. His close friend Jalen Suggs was a freshman star at Gonzaga, while his dad wore the maroon and gold colors of Minnesota between 1984 and 1988. In the end, Holmgren chose to follow Suggs' path by committing to Gonzaga, where he'd go on to prove himself as a legitimate player. In his very first game for the team, Holmgren tallied 14 points, 13 rebounds, 7 blocks, and 6 assists. This made him the first college player in the last 25 years to hit at least 10 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 blocks in his debut. He continued to ride this wave throughout the season, dropping 23 points against San Diego and 20 points against BYU. Overall, his statistical averages ranked him favorably against some of the best players in college basketball history. But more than anything else, his versatility on the court and hard-nosed mentality made him a nightmare to play against. Scouts from all over the country traveled to Washington to watch Holmgren play, and many of them were stunned by his performances.
Look at Holmgren, straight on for a triple. Bolton gave it up, and it's starting. Another turnaround here, talk about it. There's Holmgren underneath, got position, lays it in.
And you say he's going to get back when he gets fans, sell that place over. I mean, are you kidding me?
His skill set and maturity made him a standout player, and as one NBA scout said at the time, there were no real holes to his game. Well, except for a perceived lack of strength and girth. Thankfully, that wasn't a deal breaker for the OKC Thunder when they selected Holmgren as the #2 overall pick in the 2022 NBA Draft. As you would imagine, competing in the NBA is the dream of every aspiring young basketball player. However, Holmgren's selection was a significant milestone, not only for him, but also for Gonzaga and the state of Minnesota. Courtesy of his placing in the draft, Holmgren became the highest selected draft pick out of Gonzaga and the highest drafted pick from the state of Minnesota. These achievements further raised the hype around him ahead of his NBA debut. With 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists in his Summer League debut, Holmgren couldn't have asked for a better start to his OKC Thunder career. However, as someone who's always keen to improve, he also found time to participate in different pickup games. This gave him a rare opportunity to get a little preview of playing against superstars like Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, and Jason Tatum. Holmgren also got a chance to square up against LeBron James at the Crossover Pro-Am, where other NBA stars were ramping up for the upcoming season. But a few minutes into the game, he injured his foot while guarding James. This ultimately ended his 2022-23 season. It was the worst possible start to his NBA career and a big blow to OKC's plan for the season. Despite his injury, Holmgren stayed close to the team as much as possible. He spent a lot of time in the film room, studying the team's play style and really experiencing how life is in the NBA. After a whole year of sitting on the sidelines, Holmgren returned to action. Of course, his body needed some conditioning, but his mind was sharper than ever. Not only was he getting back into game shape, but he also regained confidence during the Summer League matchups, and by the time the 2024 season came around, he was ready to go. Officially, Holmgren's NBA debut came against the Chicago Bulls in October 2023. He put up solid numbers with 11 points, 3 assists, and 4 rebounds, and since then, he never looked back. Within his first 2 months in the league, he smashed the franchise record for the most blocks in a single game. To top that off, he became the first rookie since Michael Jordan to post at least 35 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 2 3-pointers in an NBA game. So far this season, he's averaging 16.7 points, 2.6 assists, and 7.4 rebounds per game. This stat line is absolutely unreal, especially compared to the numbers of some rookies from past seasons. If the 2024 season were to end today, only David Robinson in 1990 and Shaquille O'Neal in 1993 would have more blocks per game in their rookie season than Holmgren. And since 1985, only 4 rookies have had a higher field goal shooting percentage than Holmgren's 53.5 percentage. Beyond stats and records, the technique, awareness, and composure that Holmgren shows on the court is elite. He reads the game so well and anticipates situations before they happen, a testament to his high basketball IQ. Holmgren isn't the quickest player on the floor, and he doesn't need to be because, like most elite big men in the NBA, he can slow down the game to his own pace and influence it just as much as the quickest players on the floor. Holmgren is an efficient shooter with the ability to make different types of shots, and that explains why he has a true shooting percentage of 63.5%. In addition to his shooting prowess, Holmgren's overall offensive game is versatile. He's very effective playing on the perimeter, not only as the screener, but also as a roller. Add this to his straight-line drives, three-point potency, and playmaking skills, and you have an elite offensive player. Perhaps the more interesting thing about Holmgren's game is that he's just as good on defense as he is on offense. His rim protection and shot-blocking skills are elite. This is, of course, helped by his long limbs and his 7'6" wingspan, but you also cannot undermine his intelligence and reaction time to reject players without drawing fouls. This explains why he has the second most blocks in the league behind Victor Wembanyama. Speaking of Wembanyama, he's the sole reason Holmgren won't win the Rookie of the Year award this season, and you cannot help but think that without Wembanyama in the picture, Holmgren would get more props than he's currently getting. Honestly, being the second best player on a winning team like the OKC Thunder is no joke. The team is primed to reach the playoffs for the first time since the 2020 season, and clearly they couldn't have come this far without the contribution of their 7'1" power forward from Minnesota. Of course, he's not the finished product yet. He still has to work on his strength and physicality, but even with those supposed weaknesses, Holmgren's talent is scary. It's difficult to estimate his upside because with his skill set, he can go on to become just about anything he wants to be. A unicorn, a franchise superstar, or a cornerstone piece for a championship-winning team? The sky is the limit for Chet, and the rest of the NBA should be scared of what's to come.